Hey folks, it's Bill, the Stoic Pilgrim here. I thought I'd share with you a meditation that I've been having over the past day or so. Something kind of interesting happened yesterday. Some of you may have seen an Italian friend of mine. Whenever we see each other, it's a big party. It's like, hey, how you doing? And it's kind of interesting too. His birthday is 10/7/56, so October 7th, 1956. My birthday is 7/10/56. So you kind of flip the month and day, and we thought that was a hilarious coincidence. And we've since decided that we're twin brothers separated by continent and birth and whatever. But whenever we see each other, it's a great party, and it's, hey, how you doing? And hey, and it's hugging and we start singing different Italian songs, and it's kind of funny because from the viewpoint of anyone watching us, you would think that we were the typical or stereotypical Italians, loud and singing and whatever. And it kind of reminded me of something funny that happened with him the other day. So we were having breakfast, and I said to the guy, I think I told this story before in one of my other videos. I said they had like toast, right, with really nice thick hard bread, and the toast was nice and crunchy. And they also had tomatoes in a little olive oil, lightly with olive oil. And I said to him, I said, "Oh, bisogno, aglio," and I'd like to have some garlic with this. That's what it means in Italian. He goes, "Aglio." I said, "Yeah, aglio." And when he realized what I was saying, he's like, "Ah!" And he jumps up, runs across the room, opens his backpack, and pulls out a hub of garlic. And it was hilarious. It's like, boy, talk about fulfilling a stereotype, right? I thought that was kind of funny. But, it's funny about Italian stereotypes. Italians don't mind about those. Maybe about a year or more, let's go, maybe a year and a half. There was this guy who on social media just started attacking me on my Italian heritage, saying all sorts of bigoted things about Italians, some of which made no sense whatsoever, but he was on a rant. And the fact that they didn't make sense really made it quite funny to me. And then I looked up the guy, and I saw where he's from, and he had a business with his name on it in a predominantly Italian neighborhood. And now somebody might think, well, Bill, he's insulting Italians, advertise this and all that, and let Italians know and really stick it to them, And I'll admit the thought crossed my mind, but the thing was, it wouldn't have worked because Italians don't care. I mean, I see stuff on Facebook or on social media and jokes about Italian. I've worked at places where people tease me about being Italian, and Italians don't care. Italians will laugh along with the jokes. And when someone's getting nasty about it, who cares? I mean, the lion does not concern itself with the opinion of jackals. That's kind of the way Italians think of it. It's like, you want to be a jerk, go ahead, be a jerk. I'm Italian, I'm proud of being Italian. I don't care what you think. And that's really a stoic attitude, though. Because when it comes to offense and it comes to insult, you really can't insult Italians. You can joke, you can say what you want, and you're only showing yourself to be a jerk. Because Italians don't care. For the most part, most I know don't care. And that's how it really should be. That's a very stoic opinion when it comes to insult. It's when someone insults us, if they say something racist, if they say something bigoted, if they just say something because they're just plain old mean, it says more about them than it does us. Who cares? The lion does not concern itself with the opinion of jackals. And that's the way Stoicism is that I can't control these other people and what they say or how they act or what their response is. All I could do is control my feelings towards it. And those insults really have no power over me except what I give them. And I'm not going to worry about being insulted by these bigoted remarks. So that's the whole thing with that, with Stoicism and where Stoicism comes from. And, I'm kind of looking at my notes here as I write this, as I talk about this. And we should also bear in mind, though, that sometimes the greatest truth is not in the mouths of our friends, but in the opinions of our enemies. I remember when there were some jobs I had where I was just terrible. I was just terrible at them. And I remember people insulting me. And it was like, okay, you know what? There's some truth in what they're saying. And I think that's when it hurt the most. But when you listen, when someone insults you, it's like it has no power over you. But you can turn it to your benefit because you think, is there truth here? Is there value here that I should be gleaning from this, something that I should understand? And if there is, well, then we act on it, of course. Now, talking about this, when we talk about, how the opinions of our enemies or those who seek to hurt us, those who say things that are hurtful or offensive, we evaluate these things for the truth. And of course, as not even Stoics, just being a decent human being, you don't intentionally try to be offensive, except in one area, and that's art. I believe for art to be great, art has to at risk being offensive. I think of some of the greatest works of art. There was this one symphony, The Rite of Spring. I don't care for it personally, but when it was first performed, people were angry about this. People were upset, and they were offended by it. And it was a symphony, so I'm not sure why they were offended by it, but they were offended by it. There's a type of music that they call non-tonal music. Candidly, I can't stand it. You can look up what it is. I think it's just horrid. And I tried to understand it at one point. I really listened to lectures about it. And I had to stop because I realized that it was invoking something in me that was very hostile. So I stopped trying to even understand non-tonal music. I just walked away from it saying, this is something not for me. But another work of art that's offensive is Ulysses. Think of Joyce's Ulysses. That was very controversial. And nowadays, most people think of it, when they think of Ulysses, they think of the sex scenes in the scene with where Bloom has sex with his wife for the first time, and they're on the side of a hill. And it actually is reminiscent of, I believe it's in the Iliad, where in an attempt to distract Zeus from the war, so that way the other gods and goddesses can kind of counteract Zeus's will. His wife, Hera, I think I got the name right, Hera seduces him, and they make love on the side of a hill. And it's very beautiful in the poem because after they make love, the place where they made love bloomed into flowers and a beautiful garden kind of scene. And in Ulysses, it kind of is reminiscent of that scene, but that isn't the thing that made Ulysses so controversial. That isn't the thing that made Ulysses so offensive. What was offensive about Ulysses was Bloom's impotence, and not just his lack of sexual prowess. It was his inability to control his wife. It was his impotence in being unable to satisfy her, that she went to other men. And that's the thing that's really offensive, because it struck at the heart of men at that time, or even to today. The idea that your wife is stepping out on you, that you're a cuckold, that somehow you're not man enough to keep her, and that she's sleeping with other men. God, that's an uncomfortable thing. God, that's an offensive thing. And when men read that, that's the thing that made Ulysses offensive. Their inability, it struck at the core of their masculinity, in that they were worried that, does my wife cheat on me? Is my wife stepping out? Is there other men in my wife's life? I think it was Joyce who actually said that the paternity of a child is dependent on the integrity of the mother, and thus implying that, at least at his time, no one really knew who the father was except the mother. But the idea that you might not be the father of your own children, that your wife would, that was really the offensive part of Ulysses. And that really challenged men in their relationship to women. And that's what was powerful, that made it powerful art, because it challenges you. It offends you. It strikes at the core of the very thing that is important to you. And again, like the words of an enemy, that you sometimes have to find truth, that you look for truth in it. In art that offends, we look for the truth in it. In art that offends, it goes to the core of our beliefs. It challenges the things that we hold most dear. And this is something I'll talk about in a future meditation, but that's what art does. And that's what we should do. The things we hold most dear, we should challenge the most. My son told me that. And I thought, wow, what wisdom from this kid. They must have inherited it, obviously from his mother. But the things that we hold most dear, we should challenge the most. And the art that's the greatest is the art that challenges the things we hold most dear. And like the insults of those that are enemies, those that dislike us, we reject the offensive part, but if we look for that nugget of truth. So art needs to challenge us. Art needs to be offensive. And that's the only time that we really should be offensive. And to those who are offended, we should look for the truth in those things, so that we can have a better understanding of ourselves. And all of that because my Italian friend and I, whenever we see each other, we sing Italian songs. And so when people who want to attack Italians for being too loud, too boisterous, for enjoying garlic in their food, although I think the Italians do have a point, Italian Americans do put a little bit too much garlic in their food, or at least that's what I've been told by Italians, that Italian Americans put too much. Yeah, some of those things are true. But the idea is that we're aware of them, that we question those things when people challenge us with them. And that's the Stoic thing. Don't be offended, but glean from that the benefit of something that someone else is using to try to hurt you. And that's the meditation for today. Buen camino.